Good day, everyone. I'm Engineer Shane, and now we're going to discuss in the topic Construction Engineering Management 10 knowledge areas. For the learning outcomes, describe the 10 project management knowledge areas, apply basic project management concepts to construction project, recognize the importance of scope, time, cost, quality, risk, and resources in project delivery, and appreciate effective coordination, communication, and decision making in construction management. So with that, let's start with what are the 10 project management knowledge areas. If we will be starting in the top, we have scope, schedule, cost, quality, resource, communication, risk, procurement, stakeholder, and the 10th one is integration or integrating all of the topics in one. So as future construction manager in construction, you should know all of these for you to manage well a project. So let's discuss the first one. Scope. Scope refers to the processes required to ensure the project includes all the work required and only the work required to complete the project successfully. As mentioned a while ago, these 10 project knowledge areas you should know as future construction management specialist. And first important thing that you need to know is the scope. As mentioned here, ensure the project includes all the work required, but only the work required. Nothing more, nothing less. If you will be asking, why is it with emphasis of the all the work required, but only the work required? Because if you extend scope, or if you don't include some scope, you will be having a problem to the client. For example, the client wants to have a high-rise, a 50-story high-rise building with the main door with a good quality windows. But as your scope as a construction management specialist, you didn't include the windows. So in a high-rise building, you construct the 50 floors, you install the main door, but you don't install the doors. So how do you think the client will react? Definitely the client will be mad because the scope that the client wants and the client said he want to see it for his building is not there. So with that, as a future construction management specialist, you should know what scope to consider based on the client's perspective. Not on our own perspective, but again, based on the client's perspective. So with that, where can you see the scopes? You can see it on the design. That is designed by the architects, by the structural engineers, by the electrical engineers, the mechanical engineers, and the like for the construction to be built. I hope that makes sense. Next, schedule. This includes the processes required to manage the timely completion of the project. From schedule, if you will be thinking, what first comes in your mind is time. So as mentioned in the 5 phases of project management, we also need to make a baseline schedule to know what is the duration per scope of work, per activity. Why is it important? Because a project is a limited, a temporary endeavor. Meaning it has a start and an end at a certain time. We don't have project that is unlimited time. It will not work that way. Imagine if a project is no duration, no start and no finish. How will the client be looking forward for the structure that he is requesting? So that's why, as construction management specialists, we need to set a schedule. We need to know how to do scheduling. And with that, in the succeeding years in your college life, you will be having a subject that will be teaching you on how to do scheduling. Next, cost. Also, if we have the scoping, we should know what are the activities in the construction. We need to also assign the time or duration per activity. Also, we need to consider the budget, the monetary involvement on how we can make the scope come to life. And with that class, it also affects schedule and cost works hand in hand. If you have lots of money, the client has lots of budget for the project, the client or the contractor can make the project shorter. On the other hand, if the project is without budget, the project might take longer because there is no budget to make the project. So as future construction management specialists, you should also consider that what is the financial capacity, what is the budget, what is the cost that is willing to take by the client in terms of the design of the structure. Next, quality. This includes the processes for incorporating the organization's quality policy regarding planning, managing, and controlling the project and product quality requirements in order to meet the stakeholders' expectations. So, even if you have a good schedule, you have a good budget for the project, you know what scope to build in a project, if the quality is not met, it is also nonsense. So with that, as a construction management specialist, you should know, you should provide good quality to the client. What is quality, ma'am? Quality is meeting the stakeholders' expectation. Example, a while ago, we mentioned 50-story high-rise building with a door, with a main door and windows. You should know what is the expectation of the client, what is the shape of the main door, what is the color of the windows, because if you don't meet the client's perspective or the stakeholders' expectations, your output, your accomplishment is invalid. Again, at the end of the day, the client is the decision maker. He is the one who has the idea of the project. He is the one who budgets the project. That's why if the client is not satisfied with the building that he is seeing in actual, the quality is not met. So you should know what is the expectation of the client. And that's part of quality. Also, there is a list of quality standards that you should know in construction. For example, painting should be at least 2 coats so it will fit the wall well. Or exterior wall and interior wall has different paint material to be used. So you should know that as well. Aside from the client's expectation, you as a civil engineer who is specialized in construction management should also know what are the good quality standards for the material, for managing manpower, for the equipment and tools that you will be using in constructing the project. Next, resource. As mentioned, resource is common in 3. If you want to remember, this is in 3M. So we have the materials, the manpower, and the machines, also known as the tools and equipment. We as construction management specialists need to know what are the resources needed in construction because we need to plan ahead of time. Definitely, we need to have materials we will be using based on the client's expectation. Also, what is efficient and what is usable and purposeful based on the design of the structure. For example, what material will you be using in the main door? Normally, it's a solid wood door or it can be a glass door, but never a plastic door. Normally, plastic door is used in the toilet because it is water resistant and it is not commonly used by big audience. Unlike if main door, it is aesthetically good if it's big and larger and in wood or glass material. Unlike plastic, where you can use in toilet. Also, for part of also the resource, it's manpower. You also need to compute on how many manpower is needed in the construction, because if you don't estimate well how many manpower you need, if the people you will be using in construction are not skilled enough, your cost and schedule will be affected also the quality. And then last, using the appropriate equipment and tools will help the schedule and the cost of the project to progress well with quality. Next, communication. Technically, if you know what the scopes are, how to schedule, what is the budget, even if you are providing good quality, and knowing how to manage the resources well, if you don't communicate the things in actual for during the construction, you might still be having problems. So with that, you should be working as a team in construction. Communication should be present. You are not an island when you are doing construction. You will be communicating with different designers, different suppliers, different contractor. You will be having meeting many times during the construction phase. You will be working together with your colleagues, meaning many civil engineers in construction. That's why communication is important. If you're the type of person now who is not good in communication, you should practice this as a future civil engineer and as a future construction management specialist. Because if you cannot communicate well, it might be a cause of a problem. Next, project risk management. This includes the processes of conducting risk management planning, identification, analysis, response planning, response implementation, and monitoring risk on a project. It is a fact that anywhere has risk, also in construction. That's why we need to identify what are the risks in construction for every phase, every day, so we cannot be delayed on schedule, we cannot use additional cost, and also, most importantly, everyone is safe because we cannot afford to lose a life. So as future construction management specialist, you should know how to identify risk in construction. In your higher years, you will be having a subject about identifying risk, monitoring risk, and how to evaluate and execute the solutions. Next, procurement. This includes the processes necessary to purchase or acquire products, services, or results needed from outside the project team. A while ago, we mentioned about resources, materials, manpower, and equipment or tools. Procurement is the acquiring of these resources. Definitely, even if you can identify the resources, but you cannot acquire them or procure them at the appropriate schedule within the cost or the budget, also in accordance with quality, you cannot put it in construction. You cannot make a good construction as well. That's why, as part of construction management role, you should know where to source materials. You should know how the process of procurement will be. If you will be a construction management specialist, if you will choose that as your specialization, you will also have an electives in procurement in your higher years. Second to the last is the stakeholder management. This includes the processes required to identify the people, groups, organizations that could impact or be impacted by the project, to analyze stakeholder expectations and their impact on the project, and to develop appropriate management strategies for effectively engaging stakeholders in project decisions and execution. We mentioned this a while ago in the quality part, that we should meet the stakeholders' expectations. So stakeholders are the one who decides. It can be one person, it can be an organization. Stakeholders are also called owner, client, decision maker, stakeholder. Okay? So it's also part of the construction management or project management knowledge areas, because stakeholders are the one who will benefit from the construction. So therefore, effective communication every time should be done to the stakeholder. Because if the accomplishment, if the progress on the site is not in accordance to their expectation, based on the quality definition, everything that is constructed, even though it is according to schedule, according to the quality and cost, it is still nothing. Because we need to meet the expectations, and stakeholders are the one who will benefit from the construction of the structure that we are doing. And then last, as mentioned in the first part of this discussion, integration is the 10th project management areas, knowledge areas wherein all of the 9 scopes should work together well to make an effective project management while constructing the structure. Remember, if any one of these is not implemented well and executed well during in any phase of the construction, problems might arise and the client might not be happy with the response. So as our role as a construction management specialist, we should know all of these 10 project management knowledge areas so we can provide good quality service and good value in every construction that we are doing. See you in the next one.